Hey, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Hi,
How you
hi.
guys doing?
Hey,
This is
We
great.
good?
how's everybody doing?
Great.
Yeah.
How you doing, Phil? Thanks, everybody, for being here. Yeah. Can you guys hear me okay?
Mhm.
Great. Yeah. I figured maybe we'll wait just like maybe one more minute or so, but I think we're just about ready to get started. Yeah, I just wanted to say, first off, thanks a million to all you guys for being here. It really, really means a lot. I know there's so much stuff going on nowadays, but we're all here because we're so passionate about really doing this crazy ass electronic music thing. So thanks everybody for being here. Yeah, Phil.
Thanks for welcoming us.
Sorry, what was that, JP?
Thanks for welcoming us.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's thanks to Phil for a couple late ads there. Sorry if there are any glitches. This is kind of a little bit, I have some script, but bit ad hoc. And yeah, this is the first, the first Electrofans virtual meetup. So welcome everybody, and yeah, let's dive right in. So what I figured we'd do is a little bit of quick Electrofan spiel, and then kind of go around the room, as it were, just introduce everybody and have you guys tell everybody our network, like who you guys are and what you guys are up to. So yeah, so first of all, about Electrofans, for those who don't know, Electrofans is a unique combination podcast mix series resources for electronic music producers, DJs, and fans. Basically, we're both a website as well as a music promotion network for electronic music, and we focus on more of the serious melodic and atmospheric music, and we cover all genres too. A lot of underground, cutting edge music. We've been on the web as website electrofans.com since way back to about 2013 or 14 or so, but it's really been within the last 2 years that we've been taking off quite a bit and growing the network and everything. So what we do, we promote cutting edge electronic music, events brands to our network of super passionate electronic music fans. We have a great network of fans from all over the world. As you guys can attest to, we have folks from Europe, Asia, US, Canada, South America, everywhere. And our mission is just to help independent up and coming producers, more focused labels and DJs to, share their music and work with our really super awesome network. And yeah, you can find out everything on the web at electrofans.com. So jumping into, let's introduce our special guests. First of all, I figured I'd do ladies first. We have Daniela Delgova, aka Zaria. And yeah, so her style blends dark, heavy bass lines with ethereal melodies that keep you dancing until sunrise. Originally from Siberia, now living in the SF Bay area, Daniela is both a DJ as well as producer, focusing on a melodic techno sound that is simultaneously dark and uplifting. She has a regular show as resident DJ on Data Transmission Radio and has produced releases for several record labels, including Mioli Music, Lost Crate, Wout Records, Vision 3, among others. We're delighted to have her here today. Daniela, welcome to the virtual meetup. So yeah, maybe if you can tell us a little bit about yourself as Zaria Sound and what you've been up to lately.
So I think you have covered basically the the basics of what I'm all about. I live in the Bay Area. I come from a background of classical music. I grew up playing piano, and I've always been drawn to the melodic style in different genres. I played in a metal band when I was a teenager, and it was always drawn to the melody aspect of every single genre of music that I've been passionate about. So I started producing a couple years ago and decided to go into melodic techno. And I've just been, trying to learn and grow as much as possible. And I just finished up a couple more projects, and I'm about to be starting a new project. So hoping to finish another EP or two before the end of the year. And locally, there have been some events, mostly live streams, but also outdoor events at the Midway. And I have been DJing at those as well.
Yeah, so tell me about the Midway. I think I saw that. Was that actually like a live event where you actually spun out as a DJ, like at the club, or is that virtual or sort of streaming both? Or
Yeah, it was a little bit of both. So the Midway they have an outside area where they limit the capacity to, I believe it's like 200 people, and it's tables of 4, all preferably from the same household, social distance, 6 feet apart. And so it's kind of, it's like a big backyard with a stage, a festival stage with LED visuals. It's really beautiful. And it's also live streamed through Twitch. So it's a live event, but following safety precautions, but it's also live streamed.
Got it. Yeah. So sort of like, is it sort of like kind of taking the look and feel of like a big club event, like at a smaller venue, and kind of like for the current crazy times, and just sort of like projecting it outward via Twitch and live stream too. Okay.
Exactly. And then also there's a club, Halcyon, in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Maybe you've heard of it. And recently, with a couple friends, we, as a Suspended Animation, which is a new project also in the Bay Area that's developing the progressive and melodic sound to, for this area specifically to help grow its presence. We did a live stream in Halcyon, which was also, very beautiful as far as visuals go, and just the interior lighting is really, really well done.
Yeah, I saw.
That was a live stream only event.
Okay. Yeah, I checked out one of your personal streams on Twitch as Zaria. It was pretty cool stuff. I like the light show with the techno, the dark. It had a really cool dark background, but kind of just like as you wrote in your own bio intro there, sort of like a techno dark, but yet, I think maybe that's the melodic techno sound, right, JP, and right, guys? Like, it's kind of the dark, feel, but it's also got a really cool, kind of some uplifting kind of elements on it. I think your light show, Danielle.
I think it's because a lot of the tracks are written more in a minor key, so that kind of gives them that darker feel.
I didn't think of that, but that's logical, yeah. And so just tell us real quick too, Danielle, about some of your EPs. Like, what can we expect for that?
There's a new label that just was started in the UK called Sequence, and it's very promising. The work that's released on it is, so it's new emerging producers, but the quality is just absolutely outstanding. And the person who runs the label, he has been in the industry for 20 years. And I made an EP, 2 tracks, and then had a friend of mine in Germany remix one of them. And so that one I'm really excited about because it incorporates, the EP is going to be called Maiden Voyage. It's going to be out in November. And it incorporates a lot of the new sound design techniques I've been learning, and also just different mixing and mastering techniques. Also, have you heard of a label called Polyptych?
Which one was it?
Polyptych?
No, I don't think I've heard of that one.
Oh, they're a progressive house melodic techno label based out of Russia, actually. And they're starting a branch off of their label called Polyptych Limited. And so that's kind of a new sub-label of theirs. And I'm going to be releasing an EP with them as well, also in November. So nothing yet between now and then. But those are the 2 major projects that I have coming out later this year. But of course, I'm always producing, and I'm just trying to release as much music as possible. So there probably will be more.
Yeah. Would you say, to me, last thing for you, that I guess, of course, mainly you do focus on more of the melodic techno side. Do you also, would you say that you cover, I know genre is that's a topic for another whole thing in of itself, as you guys can probably relate to, but I think a lot of people, I think especially for the Electrofans network that we're dealing with, we're not genre snobs at all. We if if it's cool, good music, and then we like it. But anyway, would you say that you kind of venture out into other kind of genres besides techno, as it were, or do you sort of like mainly kind of focus on techno kind of elements?
As far as just with the Zaria project, it's been across the spectrum of melodic house, from like 120 to BPM, like kind of more daytime uplifting progressive vibes, and then the kind of ethereal, darker melodic style is kind of my main focus. And then also I'll make mixes or play sets that are peak hour techno, so kind of the heavier, more festival style. But outside of the Zaria project, I love pretty much all music, so classical, rock music, metal, just across the board.
Yeah, I saw that you actually originally got into metal too. I guess I can see, because I used to play guitar actually too many years ago, and I can see in some ways, again, the vibe and atmosphere, especially some of the dark atmospheric elements that, you could have some crossover with some of the heavy guitar music. Can you describe any way, like if there's a connection between like some of the, how you could relate some of like the dark metal kind of aspects to some of the techno stuff at all?
I think that a lot of it is just really, it's just based on music theory. It's really symphonically complex. And so a lot of the solos that you find in metal music, especially metal music from the 80s and the 90s, is really melodically complex. And a lot of the artists that make that style also come from a background of, conservatories or studying music theory. And I also find that to be the case with a lot of the melodic techno artists of today, a lot of whom come from Europe, or, learning or being classically trained is a large part of musical background.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Great. Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah. And so yeah, again, I failed to mention. So what I was thinking for this first, what I was thinking is, basically, because Zoom for the free version, actually at the moment we're still doing the free version, has like, cap like 40 minutes. So I figured for this first meetup, we do like 40 minutes. And then I saw when I originally created this meetup, they were going to give me like extend the time. If there's an open time, then we'll go for maybe, I figured like maybe about an hour, 20, hour and 30 or so. But if not, so what I wanted to do in this quick first meetup was just kind of, like I was saying, basically introduce Electrofans a little bit and all of our featured guests. Arthur, you're next. Thanks for joining us here.
Hello.
And then afterwards, kind of maybe for the next meet, like Zoom 1B, as it were, maybe kind of for the next like 34 minutes, people have to sign off, no problem. And then, but if not, if you want to hang around, maybe cover, a bit more in-depth stuff. So yeah, so moving to our next featured guest, we have Mr. Arthur GALESTIAN. Arthur GALESTIAN's, hi. Yeah.
Hello,
Arthur,
JP. We're city mates here too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Because it was interesting when I was putting this together, something you kick-ass awesome featured guests that I was like, man, a couple of you guys, know each other. It looks like we have like a heavy, I know techno is, I feel like, and melodic techno too is kind of, I feel like trance too, of course, big box, but of course, as you guys know that, I mean, I like a lot of EDM too, and some Skrillex has some good stuff, but I kind of personally made sort of a call to never, from the start of Electrofans, go too heavy into the screamo, the crazy electronic stuff. So we cover, I've always kind of steered Electrofans toward covering more of the serious, atmospheric melodic stuff. But I feel like, yeah, that techno is really big these days. So it's interesting how, probably like the three of you guys, Phil, I think dabbles in some of that, but have kind of a techno theme. And I feel like Phil is sort of our middleman, intermediary, middle person, covering, the deep house and progressive stuff. But yeah, so anyway, though, moving on to GALESTIAN. So a little intro here. Arthur GALESTIAN's musical history goes back to his days as a DJ in Los Angeles, where he's a major player in the underground electronic music scene of the 90s on FM radio. His music and mixes have received support and airplay from such huge names as Above and Beyond, Armin van Buuren, Carl Cox, Dubfire, Max Graham, Hernan Cataneo, and others. As a producer, he's created music he describes as dangerously riding the borders of deep progressive house, melodic techno, and trance. I described his music as sweeping, theatrical, atmospheric, and spiritual, fusing the sounds of world cultures together for a GALESTIAN music sampler we did on Electrofans about 3 years back, 2017, which I believe is how we came to know Arthur. Arthur is also a resident artist coach for online music school Pyramid, which is here in San Francisco and online worldwide, and also has a website, nomadicproducers.com, where you can buy his ebook for music producers on the go. Welcome to the meetup, Arthur. So tell us about, yourself, what you've been up to lately.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
It's pretty cool to be part of this group, especially since JP's right here in the room with me.
You guys are awesome.
Yeah, it's a pretty small world. So yeah, my first serious step into the music world professionally was in radio, in LA radio. And I mean, I come from a musical family. My father has kind of instilled the piano in me and my sister from a very young age. And so I kind of always grew up around music. It's a tradition that's passed down from my father's side of the family. So whether or not it was going to be a profession, it was something my sister and I had to take seriously. And honestly, if I were in high school now and somebody came down and said, "Oh, you're going to be working in music, when you get older," I wouldn't have believed it, because when I was, when I was a kid at 6 or 7 years old and you're being forced to play piano, it's not a lot of fun. But in hindsight, I'm very grateful for it, because it planted a lot of the roots. There were always different kinds of music playing in the house. And so after graduation, I ended up working in radio, first through public radio, public radio, university radio as an internship. And it was just something to do for fun. I never really thought it would become anything more than that. And I became really obsessed about DJing in college. I remember at the time, I think I was really into Mauro Picotto and like guys like Johan Gielen, and obviously the big names like Above and Beyond and Oakenfold and I don't know, Ferry Corsten, Sasha and Digweed and all these guys. And I remember seeing a video of Trance Energy, and it just blew my mind. And I was like, what in the world what is this? There's an entire arena filled with people, and there's a movement behind this. I was just enjoying listening to it in my car. And I mean, everything changed in that moment. I remember I was sitting in my room and I saw this. And so yeah, I mean, working at the radio station kind of brought everything together. And I started DJing at parties, at college parties, just for fun. We were doing a lot of parties in our apartment, getting the police called over and causing a lot of trouble. But those were fun days. I mean, it really, yeah, it was just throwing really good parties, bringing really good people together. And every single time I would play a party, it was just the most incredible feeling ever. And so I started taking my time at the radio station much more seriously. The internship turned into a co-hosting gig, and I was still continuing to DJ at the same time. Eventually, I started running my own show, and then we started doing these live remote broadcasts whenever the club would bring in international acts like Carl Cox and Armin van Buuren and all these guys. So I started becoming really, really tight with the promoters in the area and sort of building a relationship with them there. And I just started working my way up in radio. I was producing music at the time, started getting residencies, playing throughout LA. And things really, for a good solid 5 years, they were just lining up one after another. I was playing all over LA, started playing in San Francisco, and then the west coast of the US. And that's kind of how I got my start into everything. And then in 2015, I decided that if I really wanted to take this to the next level, it couldn't be something I was doing on the side anymore because it was just demanding way too much time. So that's when I went full time. I think I had enough time to decide if it was going to be a side hustle or the reason why I'm living. So 2015 is when I just cut the plan B and just went for it.
Awesome. Yeah. So what was the big milestone, would you say, for you in 2015?
I'd say just the fact that I committed fully to this. I committed full time to just becoming the best at my craft and starting to see each day as an opportunity to get closer to that. So I think that's when I decided to take that big jump. I did it on the premise that I would give every single day the best shot that I could towards the grand vision. And still, I mean, 5 years later, I still live by that philosophy. When I wake up in the morning, it's like, okay, I have another chance, to work towards the grand vision. So I think planting those initial seeds in 2015, that was the biggest milestone. And then I'd say things really started to take off around 2016, 2017, when I signed with Iconic and Perfecto. So.
Yeah, I think I saw that you had some pretty heavy involvement with Perfecto. So I know you had a really big release. I want to say, forget exactly, maybe like a year or so ago. Oakenfold, right? Paul Oakenfold. So tell us about that one. Yeah, your relationship with Paul Oakenfold and Perfecto, and that release actually.
Yeah, so that was exactly 1 year ago. Actually, it was on July 29th, 2019.
Cool.
Paul Oakenfold and I collaborated on a track called Summer Nights. It was the 50th release on Perfecto Black, which is more of the underground progressive side of the label. And that's the sub-label I've only been releasing on just because of the sound that I do. It's more, progressive. And Perfecto Black has been great because it allows me to bring my trance background and kind of blend it in together with progressive, but they're okay with techno too. If I get too techno, it's probably not right for that label. But they've been really good with nurturing their artists, and I've just developed a really good relationship with the guys there. They're under Black Hole, and Black Hole are some of the best guys I've worked with when it comes to just releasing. So and I still release with them. So I usually have 1 or 2 releases with Perfecto Black per year. My next one will be out in, I think, November. So the last one with them was in February. So
more of your releases are more in the Perfecto Black, like sort of like sub label.
Yeah. Every Perfecto release I've had has been on Black, but these days I'm also releasing on a lot of German and Dutch labels. So I have a couple of releases coming out this year on 03. There's a label called Ritterbutzka Studio here in Berlin. I'll be releasing with them. In Amsterdam, Manual Music and Click Records. So yeah, it really depends on the sound that I've got going on at the moment.
Yeah, that's true, because I think most labels. I mean, I'm not actually a label myself through Electrofans, but I work with. I mean, it's crazy how many labels I work with, and I think they kind of, each label you tend to kind of have your own. JP can, as a resident label guy here, can test that. I think I don't know that anyone really wants to be pigeonholed, but I think Electrofans too. Like when I choose tracks that I'm going to cover, because you can't. I think the bottom line is everyone wants to get their stuff played and on a playlist, everything. But the reality is you can't do everything and cover everything. So whether you're a network, promotional network, or blog like myself through Electrofans, or if you're a label, you have to have, you have to exclude somewhat, kind of just focusing on, to some degree, your own kind of style, because you can't cover unlimited stuff. So Arthur, yeah, that's actually the next thing I was going to ask you. So I know genre is kind of like, a lot of people are like, oh God, genre again, but you kind of covered some of that. Yeah. So I guess you focus on, and like I was saying, yeah, I feel like some labels, kind of tend to focus on one kind of style sound more than another, whether it's genre or not. But so how would you describe like your main genres that you approach your electronic?
Yeah, it's kind of tough to pin down, because I don't mind bringing in whatever flavors I like from other genres, but I'd say mostly I'm doing melodic house and techno, progressive house and deep house these days. I guess even. But Beatport has a new genre called organic house, and some of the stuff that I've been toying with will even fall under that genre. Yeah, it's kind of a
any good?
I like it. Yeah, I mean, if you like the Burning Man type sound with I don't know, Desert Hearts and Lee Burridge and those kinds of parties, I think you'll like it. It's really melodic and ethereal, kind of like Sebastian Ledger type stuff.
Yeah, I've seen Beatport's got some controversy for some of their tags. Some people on social media kind of complain about, I know, I do feel like progressive house is that's one of my main faves, and I think one of the key things that Electrofans Network has covered. But I do agree with what I think some fans have said. There's been some stuff tagged by like Beatport or whatnot as progressive house, when it's really not progressive house. It's more like big box EDM stuff. But
they addressed that, though, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think over a year or something, maybe a year and a half ago, they finally fixed that, because people were tired of this, and so now they have big room EDM, big room house, and then progressive house is kind of like that.
Wow.
Classic progressive house sound, or whatever is represented by it today.
Yeah, I still like Beatport. I mean, there's so many shops and so many ways to listen to music, but I think Beatport is still one of the mainstays of people. Of course, Spotify for streams, but for DJs, tracks they want to pick up, I think Beatport's a key thing. Yeah, one more thing for Arthur, because what I want to do is sort of do a bit of a lightning round thing, just in case they cut me off at 3:40, but so I want to make sure I get everyone in. But Arthur, I want to ask you one other, I think, kind of a significant thing too, because I saw on your website you're covering ebooks, sort of like for nomadic producers, and I think a key component of your background, right, is that you've been quite a bit of a nomad, lived in different LA, and I think maybe even Japan, and maybe Thailand, Asia, so and now in Berlin. So tell us a bit about your nomadic background there.
So yeah, when I left California basically in 2015, it was on the premise that I want to focus fully on music, and I also wanted to travel for a while. It was only supposed to be a short-term thing. I think my initial goal was just to travel for 6 months to a year, but I realized that I could keep going. I mean, there's I was able to just extend my travels indefinitely, and and I had a lot of people asking me how I'm doing it. How am I able to keep going? And
you cover that in your ebook on your website, I think, too. Actually,
yeah, I basically I was just spending so much time like answering people's questions and stuff, and so I decided that there's obviously this demand for knowledge. So then initially it was just a 4 or 5 page guide that I would send to friends, and then it just turned into 10 pages, and then I entered it. I think now it's like 60 pages or something like that. So yeah, I felt like it's pretty much all the information that you need if you want to. I mean, whether if you just want to take off for a week, just take a sabbatical, for a few months, or make it a long-term lifestyle. It doesn't necessarily have to be indefinite. I think most of the people who find an interest in it are wanting to take a short break and just travel and make music. So basically, unveils the mystery of how you can do that, not just the music side, but everything else around it too.
Yeah, and again, for you guys, you can go to Arthur's website, nomadicproducers.com, to check out more. So yeah, what I want to do now is move ahead to our man Phil. So next up, just in our quick intros here, we have the one like PhuturePhil, Mr. Phil Barker. As a DJ, he has played at highlight gigs in Finland and is the host of radio show Immersion Radio. As a producer, he's been releasing all kinds of music on many different labels and styles for many years, centering around deep house and progressive house. Labels he's worked with include Ghost Digital, Silent Koalas, Synth Collective, Elliptical Sun, and many more. Last summer, his track Deadbolt hit the amazing milestone of receiving 1 million plays on Spotify. He's also involved with music syncing and licensing. And I think we first got to know Phil from an interview we did on the blog and website, electrofans.com, way back in December of 2013 with the producers of Makira Deep's Rendezvous 1 compilation album, where he had a track called Whispering Cities. Phil, welcome, man. It's great to see you here, and tell us a little bit about your world, electronic music world, and what you're up to these days.
Well, thank you for having me. Things are basically a little crazy, obviously, right now, but
Yeah.
I've been trying to just kind of pivot everything and, figure some new stuff out. I actually just had a new EP drop on Ghost Digital last week. And so that's been kind of
Petrified,
my
right?
focus. Yep, Petrified. Yep,
Yeah,
that's been my focus for about, I'd say, the last 3 months or so of quarantine, is just trying to get that all finished up and, get it mastered and sent down the pipeline. So other than that, things have been pretty good. Just kind of waiting out. I have actually another EP that's coming out next week, but my NDA doesn't break till Monday, so I can't talk too much about it.
No
but it's
problem.
something I'm very excited for, and
Cool.
I'm working with somebody that I never thought I would work with in the first place, and yeah, it's a pretty awesome thing. So I can't wait to talk more about that when I can. So
we'll talk about it next one of the next meetups, right? Awesome.
Exactly. So yeah, actually, okay, I can give one tidbit without getting in trouble. It's a reporter who's won a Pulitzer Prize, and he wrote a New York Times best-selling book. So it's a project he's doing to tie music and journalism together.
Nice.
And yeah, so I was actually really surprised to be invited in the first place. And so then I was like, all right, I'll see what I can do, and it's been a pretty amazing thing to work on. So
it's awesome, Arthur. That kind of reminds me a little bit of like in a certain aside, like what you're doing with yourself too. So tying music and journalism together. Cool. Yeah. And Phil too, I want to ask you too one thing too. So you do I think like artist coaching, don't you? You do that, like you have like Zooms or on your Twitch, I think too, don't you?
So yeah, I do like studio streams and just kind of question and answer sessions. And I have a big thing because I guess in my background, I started off making hip hop in 2008 just for fun, just for some friends.
Mm-hmm.
Lived down in Houston, Texas, so I was like, I had a whole bunch of friends into Texas rap and Chopped and Screwed and all that. And I was like, yeah, I'll make you guys some beats, and kind of went from there. And around that same time, I started listening to Daft Punk and Frankie Knuckles and Above and Beyond and J-Tech. And those 4 artists kind of molded me and pushed me to try electronic music. And after that, I was like, all right, now I kind of want to, push the boundaries of myself and see where I can go with that. And so once I kept going from there, I was like, you know what? I want to see what I can do and see how I can help other artists kind of be able to achieve these kind of things. And, I have producer friends that don't really dabble into the industry side of things and the business side. And I'm always like, yo, just if you have questions, ask me. I'll tell you what I know. We'll share knowledge. You know, I'll send you some books and podcasts, because we all can succeed in this industry and we all can make music and get things out there. We just got to be sharing the knowledge and help each other.
Yeah, that's awesome. And too, I want to say too, like one little Electrofans spiel thing here too. We're going to have Phil be a key part of our, which JP has been as well since I think about March or so this year, of the Electronic Music Pro through Electrofans. So there's a lot of stuff on that. I think the URL on our website is electrofans.com/pro. And we're going to be pretty excited to bring Phil on board for that. Basically what I want to do for that is have provide like a resource in the network, which is, I think, a key part of why I wanted to organize this meetup, virtual Zoom meetup today, and a whole series of these too, is just to provide, a resource, because it's freaking absolutely brutal to make it. And I think electronic music industry, but all music industry as well, as I've been saying lately, even without, in the absence of this crazy ass Corona quarantine thing, it's either before that, it's really tough. So one of the reasons I wanted to set up the Electronic Music Pro via Electrofans is to kind of address that thing. So we're going to have Phil help us out with that as a resident expert, share tips and tricks, insight as he was mentioning, because it's a lot different for the fan side and just enjoying music versus the industry side. I think the biggest one is an amazing amount of work, and just I think a different mindset, as I think Arthur could probably attest to. I think we're going to have other meetups addressing this topic too. This one I kind of want to have more as an intro thing, but and you guys, we can always do more of these too. You maybe have some of you guys back for guests for that as well. So yeah, just want to make sure before, just in case we don't want to cut JP off too, just in case, depending on this, apologize for this little bit of chaoticness. I'm not sure if Zoom is gonna, I think we have just a few minutes left. So I wanted to get intro to JP in here. So last but absolutely not least, we have a man that's been a hugely important part of the Electrofans network. Monsieur JP Lantieri is both a DJ, producer, label head of Flemsy Music, and is now running his own new nightlife brand in Berlin, also in Berlin with you, Arthur, with his partner Ornery, called Workouts. JP's music, as well as his label Flemsy Music, is very well known worldwide, incorporating deep and progressive styles, sonically centered around, I'd say, progressive melodic techno. One of the very first music samplers we did actually on the electrofans.com website was a music sampler for Flemsy's 1-year anniversary album back right around probably about 3 years ago. JP, thanks a lot for being here today, and wondering if you could tell us briefly a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to lately, all your projects.
Yes. First, I was to say that this world is really small, because yes, Arthur, I met you in Amsterdam AD last year, and next.
Oh yeah.
Yes, we met last year in AD. We were introduced by a common friend, and next thing I realized that we were neighbors here in Berlin. So since then we met a few times. It's really small, and now I find you here with Kevin and the Electrofans.
And Klunker Kranich, we ran into each other too.
Klunker Kranich.
That's awesome.
And I also know Zaria, Daniela. First time I met you here, but a few months ago you made a fantastic track called Meteoric. And you submitted to Lost Crate, which is the label from Ornery. Ornery is, I'm sharing the studio with Ornery. In fact, he's next door to me, not now, because it's a bit too late here. And I had the pleasure to remix your track, and I think this release has been doing quite well. Zaria is really exceptional producer. She's I did not realize you were only doing this for 2 years or so.
Yeah, that means a lot coming from you, and that remix absolutely blew my mind. It was phenomenal. So thank you.
So, and I also see you here now. So it really, Zaria, you are. Should I call you Daniela or Zaria? Your artist name is Zaria.
Either one. I'm used to. I respond to both. People call me both.
When I see that you've been premiered by Mia Mendy, that you have been featured also on this SoundCloud, how do you call that, platforms like, which was it? Deep House Paris, I think, or yeah.
I just recently made a mix for Deep House Paris.
Mm-hmm. So I also see you everywhere. You're everywhere now, and the only person that I don't know in this panel is you, Philip. So welcome.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Yeah.
Where are you from, Phil?
From Houston, Texas.
Okay, cool.
So
and you, Daniela?
Where am I from?
Yeah, where do you live? Or
I live in Oakland, which is right across the bay from San Francisco. So it's in the same area.
Cool. Okay.
But I say San Francisco because a lot of people in other parts of the world know exactly where that is, but don't know where Oakland is. It's kind of like a smaller city that's right next to it.
San Francisco Bay Area, yeah, it kind of covers it globally. Yeah, it's right over the bridge. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I'm in San Francisco too. For you guys who don't know too, so Danielle and I are kind of neighbors too. So we got JP and Arthur. I know it's really the music thing. Jerry Chu, if you know this guy too,
Yes.
is the head of Droid
I know,
9.
yeah,
and
I know him too.
I think that's maybe how I originally virtually met Arthur. It really is he's kind of mentioned Phil too. You know, Miwa, who's the singer, and Wilson Costa from Akira. I mean, it is really a niche thing. You know, the guys at Synth Collective and yeah. So it's interesting how JP, you guys met at Amsterdam Dance Event, which I mean, of course, is not going to be able to happen this year. Which is again, that's a whole other Corona's a whole other arena forum right there. But
virtually, it's happening virtually, which
it's interesting.
It's
the niche.
It's not fun virtually. It's not
yeah.
What is nice is when we go there, we meet you. We were in this the lounge of this hotel. Remember, it was the Andas
Right.
Hotel.
Yeah, I remember.
So there were plenty of people going there. We meet. Oh, how are you? And you meet somebody else, and then we say, oh, let's go to this party. So we to his party where he was playing, and that's how it happens in this conference.
Yeah.
Watching online is not the same thing.
Right.
It's not the same fun, the same magic. And, of course, this year there is no other choice than doing things online. But
yeah, that's true.
But Kevin, you will have to come to Europe to the one of this coming AD, definitely.
Oh, I know. That's a whole other topic too. But I mean, I know because I feel like Europe, Russia too. I mean, I remember talking with Jerry Chu about this before. I mean, I've probably been like a hardcore electronic music fan since at least actually maybe back to 2008. I mean, Arthur is maybe with me on this too. I think I can still remember the first like freaking 10 or so Above and Beyond and Armin podcasts. I downloaded them off iTunes. I mean, remember that, Arthur? And you guys, I still remember the first maybe 10 or so. He's right, man. Like the vibe back then. And Tiesto was obviously a controversy because he doesn't give a shit because of the amount of money he makes. Or who's the other guy? David Guetta just had a track released, I think, techno-ish lately that people were saying, oh, it's actually pretty good. And I listened to it, and it was okay. But of course, these guys don't really care. But back then, guys like Tiesto, that's kind of how I kind of got into this crazy passion for electronic music, which sort of inspired me to create Electrofans in the first place, was listening to some of these podcasts from, the guys like Above and Beyond and Armin, and because he would introduce people to really cool stuff, which I think is like one of probably the single biggest thing that I try to do with Electrofans, especially through my podcast, is sort of, and the promos on the Electrofans YouTube channels, introduce new styles of music and artists. And, I try to think that, I offer people underground and lesser known artists the opportunity to put them right up alongside with the big names, which, I think is one of the cool reasons why people are, really getting to Electrofans. Okay, cool. So it looks like maybe they're not cutting us off. So we go for another 40 minutes. This is awesome. Yeah.
I actually got a notification that it said that the meeting time.
Oh, what did it say?
It said the meeting time has been extended, or is something like
cool,
that.
Arthur. Even though, more than my own networks. Thanks, man. Yeah. So if any of you guys do have to sign off, no worries. But so cool. We go for another like 40 or so. was I saying?
You mentioned
Yeah,
you mentioned Tiesto, and just
yeah.
I thought I'd toss this if you guys don't already know about it, but he just started this new alias called Ver West, and he put out a song called 5 Seconds Before Sunrise. This is just recently, like maybe a
Really?
week ago.
For
So if
West,
you
I've
like
not heard
that,
of that. Yeah.
yeah, if you it's all in caps, VER:WEEST,
Hmm.
and the name of the track is 5 Seconds Before Sunrise. So if you like
Mm.
that earlier In Search of Sunrise stuff, I think if you listen to this, it sounds modern. The production's very modern, but it kind of has that feeling of the earlier In Search of Sunrise series. So you might want
That's
to check that
interesting
out.
too, because just like maybe a couple days ago, I checked out Paul Van Dyke did a live stream, and I love Paul Van Dyke. He's probably
Mm.
on those top 100 DJs. It's like I'll go to a couple of those to help people out, and also just kind of for geeky fun, and it's kind of like, man, it's how can I pick like my top 10 in some ways, because I could go like somebody asked me recently like maybe what was my most favorite or song that influenced me in a key way. I'm like, God, there could be freaking hundreds, man. But Paul Van Dyke is consistently, probably, I think he stayed pretty true to his sound. But anyway, he played some stuff on a set he did a couple of days ago that really did have some of that, I call it the old school stuff. And I think this stuff is coming back. And I think a lot of these big names, maybe it's because they're burned out too. They want to just, for them, maybe going back to the old style is kind of refreshing. I had a little talk about that with Jerry Chu too a little bit recently, because I think a lot of us are burned out, especially from Corona, but from pushing the envelope so hard. And I think it really is key in this crazy ass music space to remind yourself like why you got to do in the first place, the buzz and the hairs in the back of your neck kind of thing, the raw passion and excitement, to come back to that. And so some of this old school stuff, I think, for some of us older post millennial folks, kind of brings some of that back. I think a lot of the younger audience really digs that style too. So yeah. JP, yeah, did you have any? Do you want to cover a few? So I checked that. So the workouts brand. So I took a look at it, and I was a little curious exactly what it is. So it looks like you're.
Oh, it's brand new. It's really, this
Yeah.
is just starting. So we've made 2 recordings with a virtual, a bit like the one you're seeing now around me. So virtual background.
Mm-hmm.
One owner made one, and I made the second one. But we have not done any. There are not that many happenings in town now. Arthur, maybe you could be interested, because next week on Friday we're going to have our first show in A7. I don't know if you know this club, A7, near Alexanderplatz. They have the most amazing LED screens in town.
Cool.
The whole
Okay.
place is LED screens. Yeah. So it will be
Wait,
Friday.
Is this a live stream or an actual event?
It will be actually event.
Oh, cool. Okay, I didn't
I haven't
even know
announced
that.
it. Yeah.
Okay,
because
cool.
it's our first. We don't. So they have the garden. The garden is already working for. They already have music in the garden for
cool.
a few weeks already, and now they're also opening indoor with the the social distance. I mean, people have to be at the table, not allowed to dance, maybe move a
JP's
little
like, yeah.
But just starting things here.
Cool.
Trying to do some new things. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, send us a link and I'll post it up on Electrofans. Let everybody know for sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the visuals that we're gonna have in this club are more or less the same one that you've seen on the one you posted.
Cool.
And you were talking about a lot about Above and Beyond. I saw them a few times. They're really amazing. But something funny which happened. I made a couple of months ago. I made a bootleg, just for fun like this. I made a bootleg of their famous song Sun and Moon. I think you know this song, Sun and Moon.
Yeah, I think I saw that. Yeah, you did that.
And as I made a bootleg, I just gave it away, I promoted it a bit, and next thing that happened is that Hardwell played it.
Wow.
Hardwell. Wow.
Hardwell played it. Wow, 2-3 weeks ago in one of his shows, and I said, wow, I don't even know how he got it. But when I saw that, I said, wow.
You never know who's listening, I mean, this is sort of a pretty wide segue, I'd say, but like on the topic of, they're beast, but on the topic of like, numbers and social media and streams and whatnot. But sometimes, you could only have like 30 plays versus like 30,000. But if Tiesto or Oakenfold. Who's the guy I've seen in a lot of promos that someone's listening for him? You know, if one of their, you know, agents for them is listening, and dude, 30 does, you know, it could be the ticket. Doesn't matter if it's like 30 freaking thousand, you know. You know what I'm saying? So who's the
It's
guy?
good.
Some really big DJ I kept seeing listening for, you know, you never know. Above and Beyond, I've seen some nice listening for Above and Beyond. So you could be in that only 30 plays and get picked up. That's cool, man. Hardwell. Yeah. Did he have any comments about the track? Or?
No. I still don't know how it happened. He playing it. Maybe his team, his management team is browsing and sending in stuff. I don't know how it works, but I don't know how it happened, how he received it, because he did not receive it from my normal promotional ways.
Got a comment here from Patrick Zeller. In Search of Sunrise was my entry point back in 05, 06 when Tiesto actually gave a shit. Phil says 05 and 06 are classics. Everyone's trying to revisit old sounds. Yeah, for sure. So workouts. So what exactly, JP, is it like? I guess originally when I saw it, I was thinking it's like a clothing brand. Is it like a mix? Kind of maybe explain again a little bit more about what your goals are for that workouts.
But the main goal is to make some events.
Events company. Okay, cool. Okay, I see. Got it. Yeah.
Well, we start very small. Huh? It's just a beginning.
That's a good idea. I can tell you that from Electrofans, man. I mean, man, it's like, remember you guys, the old Casey case? I think if anyone is old enough, maybe older than you guys, but back in the 80s, like, keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. Dude, I don't care what era you're in. That is, if you're in the 50s, 80s, or freaking this whack-ass 2020s that we're in now, I'll take credit for coining this term. That's a very relevant thing, I think. You know, it's like you know, that I still have to work on. It's like, today I was thinking about it'd be nice to have a secretary. I still had prep to finish for this meetup, and I was downloading like maybe 10 or 15 promos, and like, so it's like, focus and really keep grounded and start small, but keep, you know, with a big goal in motion, in mind. So that's a good idea to do that, JP. Yeah. And JP too, so you have like I feel like Jerry Chu too, like a high node network label guy, like you're saying, you intersect with a lot of folks such as Daniela from Ornery. Ornery's got some really good stuff. Excellent. Lost Crate, George, this guy George, he just did a really nice new techno EP that dropped that I did promo for on the eFans YouTube channel, and check him out too, Phil, if you get a chance. I think I imagine that you and Tyler Shaman at Ghost Digital, that maybe your guys' style too, some really cool, like, cutting edge techno stuff. So JP, yeah, you're kind of like a godfather. Can I call you the godfather of melodic techno, or is that?
As long as you don't call me the grandfather, it's okay.
That would be Oakenfold, maybe Oakenfold, right? I don't know.
That would make sense, because I feel like he inspired a lot, like him and like DJ Sasha in the 90s inspired
Sasha
a lot of modern day producers.
Yeah.
Modern day melodic producers.
Yeah, like Patrick was saying, I mean, I remember too, I think it was 04, 05, I think it was Sasha. Yeah, had some really cool. So, by the way, hi, Patrick. So tell us. Sorry,
I know, it was a fly on the wall. I didn't know how much time we had. I'm closely
sorry for a little bit
affiliated
of craziness, but yeah, welcome to our meetup, man. So I guess your friend and a sidekick, real helper for agent for Phil Barker, our man, PhuturePhil. So tell us about yourself and your role in electronic music scene these days.
I mean, honestly, for me, it started back probably like you. I think it's Daniela. You were saying you started in metal. I was a big heavy metal guy. I was like Children of Bodom, the whole nine, like really heavy driving style. And then right as we went to Colorado, I met Phil. I actually met Phil in a very funny, unique sort of way. It's our two towers had connected between the dorms, and I was making a ruckus. And it's where the laundry rooms were. I didn't know anybody was put in the basement. And Phil comes out.
Awesome.
Yeah, just throws a chair, basically telling me and a couple of our friends to shut up because it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, here I am, just like turned ghost white, not knowing anyone's living down here, let alone like they're students. So not even 2 weeks later, Phil comes up the elevator off on the 5th floor, and he sees me there. And he's like, you were the one making the noise. And since 2008, we've been homies and just kind of try to help each other grow. But we both got a similar taste in music. We'll talk shop for hours on end, just the two of us. And when this opportunity for Phil is coming up that we can't really talk about, when I heard, this is what was going on, it was something where I'm like, okay, like we really feel this is a way to kind of get you to that next level of really getting some exposure.
He's being modest about it. He told me I got an email from him, and I thought I was being catfished. So I was like, bro, just delete it, man. I was like,
well,
that
I gotta say,
real.
I can't wait to hear about this, Phil.
Like, no, this is legit. This is legit. So I reached out through actually my formal email instead of just my private email, just to make sure it was something that was legit. Because right now I currently have a federal position, and I work at the Smithsonian, and it was one of those, okay, like this is going to pick up anything that comes through here is going to pick up if it's junk email, if it's coming from a bot or anything like that. And unbeknownst, verified source, went through, did some, I do a lot of research on individuals just in my line of work as fundraising, and looked into him like, Phil, this guy's legit. I don't think he's scamming you. This is something that's really, we should approach with everything we've got. So what was that, Phil? November? September?
Yeah, earlier than that. I think, wasn't it September, I think.
Maybe September, early September. So it's been something that tight-lipped about since. But Phil and I, we kind of got started when we threw our first little party at that same dorm at the end of the year. We had a 13th floor that had the highest views of anywhere in Boulder, Colorado. So here we are, a couple of 18-year-olds trying to throw together just a dorm party, aspiring to be like, oh, we just got to get signed. We just got to do that one piece, get that next level. And it was through that whole growth of understanding how this business works, I think, that we helped each other learn, but grow from it. And kind of had each other's back through thick and thin when shit hits the fan. How do you kind of see clearly? So I think if anything, more or less, I've been a sounding board for Phil and vice versa. But we've been doing it for, 12 years.
Yeah.
Cool. So Patrick, you've been friends with Phil basically back to college days, Boulder, Colorado.
18.
Yeah. So are you a producer, DJ yourself? And are you actually kind of like the official or semi-official like agent for the PhuturePhil brand here?
I was going to say, I would say as far as being an official agent, if Phil handles his business and that's his business, I think I'd be more of like the E and from Entourage more than anything, as far as like kind of just from a personal standpoint. I come from a friend standpoint, but I also have the professional side of, I do fundraising, I do event planning, I do a whole lot of networking. That is my job. So just, kind of helping each other through that. So I handle a lot of the email communications and kind of came through me for some of this project that we're doing. So I would say Phil's a manager of himself. I just want to support where he's going and really be just kind of his homie to see us through, because it's a vision that we both have shared. And Phil, I think, has been much more of the producer side of things. He has always been my producer friend. I picked up DJing probably about 10 years ago. 11 years ago, and I'm much more into this is during the initial like kind of boom of dubstep and kind of the rise of Denver as a bass capital of the nation. And it was interesting because it was what we were looking for and what I was looking for was only on like Thursdays, Energy Thursdays, Phil at Beta, where you'd get Tiesto, these huge names coming through for only 1,000 people. And this was back when Beta was still Beta nightclub in Denver. So for 3 nights a week, you'd have top artists coming through in a boutique club. So I was on their street team. I did a lot of work with, kind of helping navigate promotional side of things, which led to putting together events in Boulder that Phil and I both DJ'd at. So I kind of managed that side of, 4 nights on the hill. We had 3 DJs that did it. So that's kind of how we started off on an official business, if you will. But it's just more I've been just a homie and an advisor.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. Colorado, actually, I guess people, I think Berlin actually, I've been reading, really is like people think Berlin, LA, San Francisco, New York, Paris club centers, but London, but Japan, Tokyo too. But Colorado, yeah, it does have some kind of Austin, I guess, Texas, some cutting edge. I think Beatport's out of Colorado, right? Like,
so
stuff going on
was
electronic music.
Yeah, Brad Roulier, the founder of Beatport,
yeah,
actually was the founder of the Church nightclub. And the church was one of the only nightclubs in Denver that could stay open past 2 a.m. So he took the best staff basically from the church and brought him over to Beta, which was an old warehouse. It was the first Function One installment in the country for a club. So it was when Function Ones were just really getting out there. It was like probably like a $1.8 million, gift from Function One for promo, because what they had was the Beatport Lounge upstairs, which was the promo for that drove back to Beatport. So there was this kind of co-branding opportunity, and it was this, they got sponsored by Function Ones. And I can, to this day, I have never been into a club that had that kind of acoustic engineering. There's more acoustic engineering at Beta Nightclub V1. I don't know what it's like now because they've changed hands.
But
But
what is Function One? Is that like an events company or?
No, it's sound system. So Function Ones are arena speakers, and they had 4 towers that's meant for 30,000 people in one room that was meant for about 800. When they first tested the speakers, they set off the car alarms in the parking lot 2 blocks away. So it was like they ran at 15% capacity. And when you get the chance to see someone like a Tiesto, Above and Beyond, any of these big names that are coming through, Phil and I had an opportunity to go see J-Tech, and then stuff like that, where it was like you'd have these up and coming and these superstars come through. And I was on the street team, so we'd go and put up a bunch of posters, and we'd get in for free. We'd be on the guest list. It was a starving college student way of being like, hey, I want to be a part of this scene. I want to try and give back in one way or another. How can I do it? And that was where it kind of started for us.
So do you have some background in actually like audio engineering too, or like speakers, PA setup stuff, or? It's
all self-taught. But for a while I did car audio installs. I've done a couple of home theater installs. Really, I am a nerd, a tech nerd, no question. So as far as when it comes to hardware, I love talking about it. I personally can't afford a lot of the modular stuff that one would wish they could. But I played guitar. I was trained in piano, so I can actually read sheet music from piano. And then I played guitar for 6 years and moved to Colorado. You can't play guitar in a dorm room. You can't really bring your guitars and your amps into a dorm room. So I kind of found the new outlet, which was really kind of the DJing element. I felt like it was being a composer versus an element that was part of a greater whole. So being able to blend the different sounds and being able to kind of take it. And that's the addiction that I really got in the music. And I think for Phil, he got really hooked on the producing side of things and getting out the content that was in his head when I was hearing, these different sounds would blend really nicely together. I want to hear how that's going to sound. So it was this creative approach though. And I think with Phil, when he made the full-time commitment, I was in a position where I couldn't walk away from it. I don't have the content for a producer or anything like that right now. I'm not the greatest Ableton user, if you will. But I think more or less the relationship with Phil has been more mutualistic as far as just being a best friend and being able to, hey, what do you think of this? Sounding boards, really just having each other's backs. And I think that's important because it comes down to the music, it comes down to what brought people together in the first place. And it's a shared experience in the same place that you only get to live once through. And we were talking about a lot of these, big acts that change their sounds. That's kind of when I wanted to jump in just briefly, just because I've been listening to this music for 15, 16 years. I got started. I have a brother who's 7 years older than I am. So he introduced me like the New York, NYC underground, which was, what was that some of the old stuff like Kerncraft 400 days, like way back then, like 99. Binary, Goriel.
Yeah, I haven't been really that familiar with that myself, I guess personally, but I just did a promo for, I don't know if you know these guys, JP, a French label called Brique Rouge. Man, they've got some whip ass stuff. They just did an EP like just a week or so ago where in the liner notes they talked about how it was like an homage to like the 90s New York house masters. And I was like, I've heard like Frankie Knuckles and all those guys, but it's funny you say that. That's why I want to interject there, because I just saw that and they kind of, it's got a definitely, I think, underground yet feel good dance vibe, which I think is
sure.
People take to that, style, I think for sure. Yeah.
And I think Phil and I also were at an opportunity when we went to Ultra when it was still back in 2 days and seeing somebody like A-Track play and his vinyls are melting because it's so hot in the sun. Like, you get to see certain things like that, that you don't have anymore because the scene is become so inundated in sponsorships and throwing these big events. And I think what's been
Yeah.
cool is that what you're doing, Kevin, right now, what you're doing is really, I think, bringing it back to what's the centering point. As much as I think this whole quarantine and COVID shutdown sucks, and it's a battle for the industry, I hope that on the other side of this, it's back to where it really started, and it's come from the heart. It's all about the music. It's what brings people together, be it virtual or physical presence. It's still here, and we're still able to do it. It's just a little different these days. So I commend you for your efforts. I look forward to kind of looking at some of the stuff that you and Phil are going to be launching in the next week or so,
Oh
because
yeah.
this is the world we're going to be living in now for the foreseeable future. And
Yeah.
it's
And yeah,
important
thanks, Patrick, too, for being here. And yeah, I was going to say
my
too that,
pleasure. Thank you for having me.
yeah, that for me, I've been kind of wanting to set up one of these Zoom kind of things for a while. And I kind of feel like in some ways, even without this Corona horror debacle that we're currently in, I was going to say, I probably think it'd be a great thing to do this anyway, because I feel like for the Electrofans network, we're kind of a distributed kind of network as it is. We're all over the place. I have a huge base following out of Japan, as you guys may know, and of course Europe, Russia, which is, it's funny. We have, folks here, Berlin and Daniela, originally from, I think, Siberia, Russia, right? So to me, even without the Corona thing, it's a great way for people internationally. The internet and social media, again, one of the things I say is that it's a two-way thing. On the one hand, it offers all great opportunities like this, and the flip sides are, the spam and just the flooding of the market and just saturation. But
Toxicity.
yeah, exactly. And I saw somebody the other day mention an event like digital detox. Like, man, I fucking love that term, digital detox, man. But yeah, I don't know. So anyway, I feel like it'd be great, thing to do this kind of thing anyway. But yeah, especially nowadays where it is mandatory, like JP was saying, where you have clubs reopening or semi-reopening, to still do it this way, So I was kind of thinking the reason I wanted to do this is because for one reason too, just to do it, because everyone from, like Colbert and, any of these talk show pundits are doing it. And I've, not last week or two, but like last month or so, I've been checking out some really cool stuff. I think from Modern Musician, did some really nice, like a 2 or 3, 4-day seminar for free. And Modern Musician, I think Song Trader too, has been having some really nice happy hours. And I'm thinking about maybe making this as a regular recurrent thing with a series of like things. So maybe I was thinking of two, so just a little bit of Electrofans stuff to get this out of the way. I was thinking of two things. One, well, many things actually. Phil and JP, Arthur, you guys may know that. I mean, man, there's a lot of stuff down the pike. We just pushed our the Electrofans clothing shop a couple of days ago, sweatshirts and hoodie. And by the way, I want to give a plug to my man Viral from Sound Vessel Records sent me this best shirt. I told him, you created a monster, man. I was playing around with the Spreadshirt thing, and I set up a store, and I'm like, I need to actually buy one of the freaking shirts to make sure it looks, as advertised. But, I think that's a really cool thing. So that's one of the things I've been working on, the new Electrofans. By the way, too, for anyone that wants, that's shop.spreadshirt.com/Electrofans. There's banners all over the place through our network too. I put that, so I'm doing that. But so what I want to do is in the near future, maybe starting already in August, is like a regular series of kind of some talks. Two things. One would be like one-on-one interviews. And Arthur too, by the way, man, I so apologize. I know I've been telling this before to do that. I've actually, this is another, I was going to say secret thing. I've actually got a clucking interview with JTech that's been in the book for, you guys probably, not everybody does, but maybe a lot of you guys know who this dude is. We were going to do this for a year. I think we're going to get this going, but I know everyone is so crazy busy, which is why I so appreciate you guys being here. But Arthur, you're going to be the first one on this new series, man. So I'm going to do two things. One of them is going to be a one-on-one interview kind of thing. And Arthur is going to be guest number one on this. And then the other thing I want to do, we're going to do is like a regular, like think tank kind of thing, which for this meetup, I was like, well, depending on time, we're actually going to have time to start a little bit of this for the rest of this meetup today. But again, that goes back to my whole concept of the pro, which JP has started, the Electronic Music Pro. And also Arthur and Phil are going to, I think, help me out with this too, is kind of like some thought. Patrick, maybe you can take a part in this too, man. Like, I don't want to have this to be like 100 people, like a small group thing where people can share tips and tricks. Maybe Danielle, if you like too, you're welcome to take part in some of this too. like insights, because I think, you know, Phil and Patrick, you guys can relate that without a doubt, you know, networking is how you have to get it done. You can't do, it's actually crazy the things I've done on my own. You guys can relate. I think Phil as a producer, but you need other people in your network to kind of pool the resources, labor work, but also like, you know, a think tank kind of thing where you can exchange ideas, tips and tricks. So that's kind of was the concept for Electrofans Electronic Music Pro. And I think the URL again is electrofans.com/pro, where all that stuff's going to be housed, like all the blog posts. So JP, my man JP's already done like some really nice, actually a week ago, right? You did one on how to get that elusive kick drum, which is a common thing. So with Phil and Arthur too, would be great to have you guys jump in. And anytime you like, what I'm looking for is like production, possibly, you know, Patrick too, down the road here. Like what I want a couple of people to do is like, be able to like share like some, like producer tips, you know, on things like production. It could be whatever you guys want. Like kick drum, obviously from JP is a really cool one. Danielle, maybe it'd be awesome if you want sometime could join, share a couple, you know, snippets on some techno production or whatnot. I feel like myself, I'm more the marketing. Maybe Patrick can cover some of this aspect too, the marketing, social media stuff. So what I want, so just to kind of condense here, what I'm going to planning on doing is a regular recurring series of two different things. One is going to be the one-on-one interview stuff, and the other one's going to be like a think tank thing. And again, Arthur GALESTIAN is going to be the first one. We're going to do this, and the next couple of weeks is going to fucking happen. We're going to do this. And then on the think tank thing, I think maybe the first two I was thinking are going to be pro. Like what actually does it mean like to be a professional electronic music pro, which is broad. So we'll kind of condense that. And number two, or maybe one or two, will be on the social media, because social media is, well, it's a necessity, but it's actually also pain and hell too. I think you guys can all relate to. You can question yourself, what does it really mean? But it's a slow burn, I think is what it is. And there's many things, and one of which is like, if you actually were to wake up the next day and have 10,000 followers, what's really the quality of those followers? You know, there really is a thing about quality over quantity. So anyway, that's sort of some things I want to cover, you know, kind of with that. And so maybe I'll throw this out here too. So I want to ask you guys kind of in a nutshell too, like what you guys like about my premise for Electrofans and the website and the network. What do you think is good about it? It's pretty useful for you guys. Phil, maybe kind of starting, at least on my screen, maybe kind of caught down there. So starting with you, what do you think?
So one thing I like is the whole pro section with the articles and the interviews, and because I know just for me personally, for past, I'd say 5 or 6 years of me, when I first really got started into producing and learning, I had no idea how to do any of the business side of it or the industry side. Like I have a couple older tracks of mine that I got in bad deals, and I don't even know who owns them now and that kind of thing. And, you know, I had to go through years later and work through all that, but it would have been nice to have that resource,
Screw those guys.
the first time. Yeah. So that to me is having the resource and the knowledge and information to be able to kind of work through some of those problems, get advice, things like that for younger producers. Because nowadays it's a lot different, but 10, 20, 30 years ago, that information wasn't out there, and a lot of artists kind of got screwed over. And I think it's just good to have that knowledge at hand now. So
I've seen that too recently, like on Facebook and whatever, like people really airing grievances about like disputes about contracts. Actually, thanks a lot for a really nice potential topic for us down the road, is like that you guys can attest to. Because I used to make music years ago, but I'm a promoter and the company business side and like promotions and media side is Electrofans. I'm not really the producer or the technically label myself, although I've worked with tons of labels. So you guys can probably, I think the producers, apart from the label too, that could be a potential topic. Like I don't want to say as a title how to not get screwed, but that could be sort of like just different aspects of like what to look for when getting you a contract. So that's really potentially a good topic. Yeah. Something like that.
The other thing too, I might add too, if you don't mind me just hopping on really quickly. It's just like I'm a big fan I'm a techno head right now for sure. Like I'm a purist when it comes to a lot of that. But my musical interests span everything from Chris Bodie and jazz all the way to, like I said, some of the heavier metal, rock, not as much as the new wave indie stuff. But what I think is an opportune time right now to talk about is, especially with things that are going on with whom I was a dear fan, something like what's going on with Bass Nectar. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what's going on with him or not, but he's a huge bass it's bass music as a whole. He was out of the Bay Area. And it turns out like it was a collective team effort, as he even openly said Bass Nectar is a collaborative content. It's a collaborative platform. It's not just the artist. But what he created was so cult-like in the respect where people followed him. He was like the Grateful Dead. People would, including myself, come from far and wide to come and see him. But he had the most stellar productions. There was bar none next to like an actual festival that could compete with his level of production, and it was spectacular. And I always wondered how did he get 10 years of touring? How did he continue to roll out 5-6 EPs while spending 300 days on the road? And these people who are on the peripheral have very similar sounds, but where are they being brought into the fold here? And within the last 6 to 8 weeks, a lot of this has unfolded where he's been, there's been some accusations of some grooming with younger girls. And then the rest of everybody else has come out and been like, yeah, well, he stole my content. Or he, he took an intro I sent him for one track and made it something else entirely and then didn't give me any credit for it. So I think, you look at what Phil was mentioning, you look at how that manifests on a large scale through the industry. I think an element that people aren't doing is talking about, how do we prevent that? How do we create this so that the stardom, the superstars that we get do not end up being the ones who are, in my opinion, the most least deserving. If you are commanding $250,000 for a set at a festival and you're getting paid that kind of money and it's a pre-laid set and you have, a pattern behavior, I think it's important to talk about the toxicity that exists that for both an artist and not, and talk about ways we can actually be a part of the conversation that comes out of this.
Yeah, maybe Patrick, what I can do is sort of like roll that into like a broader thing, actually, because I mean, maybe it's, how do I put it? Yeah, but definitely, yeah, it's a part of like when you say the pro. I actually didn't. If do you guys know who British singer Kirsty Hawkshaw is? I mean, I think she's got a fairly broad popularity base, but I did an interview with her again back in 2014 or so, and she kind of aired some grievances, sort of like kind of along those lines too, like not getting credit for. She was saying in an interview I did with her, which I thought was amazing, really, and I thought it was so cool. I thought it was so cool that she did that with me for Electrofans, but she's covered like all genres, and she's been around since the 90s too, and I think she was a member of this group called Opus 3, which was I think a top 40, like a famous Billboard topping freaking deal, like back in the 90s. And she's an amazing singer, beautiful, incredible voice that can cover any kind of style of music. And I think she was talking about how a lot of female vocalists kind of get screwed over in terms of not. I think I did notice that on one track, I forget who it was or when it was just some dude producer had like his name, but didn't even say credit the singers. One of the things that I'm really since I started Electrofans, I've always tried to do good about is to credit the source, whether it's the producer and or the label, because I feel like that's really important. I mean, I put on the footer of electrofans.com since day one that copyright all the original stuff like the graphics and the content, the words, but I don't own, or the Electrofans network doesn't own any of the music. I mean, even if it's a free download, I try to be really good about crediting photos. I mean, I feel like Unsplash and these photo things that everyone gets stuff from are kind of ubiquitous these days, but I think it's really, really important to credit your source. So when Kirsty mentioned that about, I think she said that's happens unfortunately kind of fairly often with females, sometimes male vocalists too. So anyway, yeah, that could be something to to kind of
Yeah, just food for thought, things of that nature, just because it's what's going on in the industry. And I know a lot of the blog sites and places like that really are, it becomes political, becomes politicized. Oh, you're having this way, this way. It's just a platform for even being able to talk about shared experiences, what Phil's gone through, or anything of that nature. It's just, I think, an important lesson that if you're an up and coming artist, you're really trying to make it, to be prepared, to be a little bit more, oh, hey, I've got my first deal. Like I got it, it's having some counsel. I mean, who do you look to for that? And I think having a place where you can do that as an up and coming place, upcoming artist in whatever field it might be, it's always good to have mentors. And the virtual platform now allows, I mean, I've only met one of 6 people who are on here, or one of, the 5 others. Yet I feel like there's a rapport that exists amongst all of us because there's a passion for music. We're all here to have a conversation and be a part of that. And I think for somebody who might be a little lost and a little bit, discouraged when they're first coming up, having something where they can look to and hear other people's experiences and what their tips and tricks are, I think it's invaluable because it spotlights toxicity, but also spotlights a path forward for the artist.
Yeah, Patrick, you just bring up a really big thing. I think I've seen, again, probably Facebook is the first thing I could think of where I've seen a lot of folks, like, again, airing grievances, just I think some frustration about, I think, rejection from labels. I think that's, so I'm hearing 2 key things here, like what to look for when signing a contract, and also how to handle rejection from labels. I think that's, I'm kind of, in my mind, I'm kind of seeing a couple of those 2 things sort of bundled. And I've seen a lot of, I know how you guys have on that, like, different, views on some of that, but you guys as the producers, and it reminds me too, Phil, I don't know if JP did this one actually, but I think, Phil contributed a really nice piece. I did a write-up on the Electrofans blog on self-publishing. Phil contributes a great piece to that, which I think that makes me think of that too. Like a lot of producers these days, I think some producers still go the label releasing route, but are opting to either entirely independently release, or still what was I going to say? So do a mix and match of self-release, other labels. Some producers saying, "Fuck it, man, I'm doing it all on my own. It's totally independent." So yeah, those are topics too. That's a pretty broad thing. And Phil, you were saying something else. I want to put the mic back to you about, like, we were talking about something, you were on the topic of, like, that's when you were mentioning like contracts and stuff like that. Yeah, I think maybe we're talking about the pro aspects too.
Yeah, I think what I will say, kind of tying everything back into what I was saying earlier and what Patrick was saying, is that it seems like a lot of producers that I've interacted with and met or talked to don't really have, there's not really a barometer for success anymore, I don't think, because there are people out there right now that we don't know their names or anything, and they're out touring the world, they're out selling out shows, they're making a comfortable living, paying all their bills, making music. You have composers for TV and film, you have sound designers doing games, movies, that kind of thing. There's so many different pathways to success, and I think just people focus on like the Tiestos and the Aviciis, like the huge names that are making Marshmallows, all those type of guys. And it's like, you can make a living and you can do well, and you could start a couple labels and be a label owner and throw parties and do all sorts of things. Like, there's options. There's not just one way to be successful, in my opinion. And I think that's something that a lot of producers need to kind of see or hear, so they can start to be like, okay, I don't need to do this and that. I can just go this way and still be okay,
Dude, that is absolutely huge too, because I'm putting this down on my virtual notebook too. Virtual secretary, like, write that down, please. Like that, the first aspect about the publishing thing and the contract thing. And I saw that exact point you just made, Phil. I think it was maybe on a Modern Musician one, where nowadays it's like you've got to have multiple revenue streams. Yeah, and I think Arthur probably covers this too. Like, he's got a lot of you folks. You're doing. Me too. Like we're doing like promotions, like we're doing writing, clothing, freaking t-shirts, merch, events. I think, you have to, with or without this Corona stuff, it's like you have to diversify that, because the music thing is is brutal. And again, I think that's, you know, one of the reasons why I want to really, really hammer the pro aspect of this. And I think, and I know too, like, and again, Kirsty Hawkshaw, in my interview with her, covered that topic too, about which I can see, like, in a way it sucks how, like, you got people like Tiesto and Van Buren, whatever, making bucks. These guys are wealthy, man, millionaires off. Well, they actually, I think all these guys, they have, and there's two sides though. They have put in their time. Again, like I was telling you guys earlier, like I remember '08 or so, and the excitement they generate too, and the passion. You know, week after week, it's grueling, it's exhausting putting stuff together. And you guys that put these things, as I can attest to too, doing the podcast, it's a shitload of work, man. It's, but we do this as a labor of love, and we do it to do it. But I can see why people can say, some people can say, especially the smaller, more indie folks, how, what is this crap? You know, these guys are making millions. But I think the key, maybe to tie in Phil's comment there, is, you know, look broader and, like, you know, how can we, yeah, they're getting paid in a sense to play other people's music, even though they are also producers, but to press play on other people's stuff on these DJ things. But I think the thing is, though, is how, in terms of monetization, which is actually one of the things that I want to cover as one of the most fundamental things with the Electrofans Music Pro too. Money is a sticky topic too, because I mean, people, it's a two-way thing, because people, if you get too salesy, or I love that term salesy, but people start to be like, I smell sales when a suit or something. It's gross. But the thing is, man, it's like, you have to fucking make money to survive. So don't feel bad. That's a topic. One of the things I think we can bring up in one of our sessions, Electronic Music Pro. I think there's a lot of aspects of it too. But I think, you know, the reality too is it's very unlikely that any of us here can become Tiesto or Van Buren. But, you know, I think some of you folks, you know, I think you guys are doing it. Arthur, Phil. I mean, I'm trying to grow this network too, to actually do this professionally too. And I'm not going to go into details, but I've got a little bit of help, a little bit initial fundraising. And the key is you have to really ramp that up and maximize this and do this continually. So if you guys want to help me out with that too, I think that's a great resource for musicians, because I think just making money isn't the only tenet of being professional, but it's a key one, especially for us more indie niche folks. But I think success will come over time. And it's just throw it back to Phil, as he said, you know, I think diversification, and Arthur, I think, has done, you know, this too. And again, JP, clothing brand, you know, I think you have to have multiple streams to really get success going, income coming in. Yeah.
Kevin, I mean, it starts with the conversation. I literally, by trade, my job is a fundraiser. I fundraise for the Smithsonian Institution right now.
Oh, wow.
And this is a 2/3 federal institute, and they still need money, fundraised money, private funding, to do exhibitions, to do receptions, to do these things. Money is a sticky thing, because you see these huge checks go out, and it's like, oh, well, they're, you know, are they deserving? Well, they put their time in. They've got teams that they've got, you know, people around them that they've also get their fair share. They've got all these other things that are going into it. I think it comes down to what your brand is worth. And you see it with an artist like Deadmau5, where he sees the Deadmau5 brand grow so exponentially. And then he decides, okay, I'm going to continue that, but I'm going to go back to what I was doing in 2007, where I was really excited, and do a test pilot, which is like a dark side. It's his techno alias. And to have that,
everybody's doing that these days, aren't they? Sorry.
Well, it's because they have they have now the capital, and they have the means to be able to finally get to what they want to do. You know, I've heard interviews with Deadmau5, for example, multiple times saying, like, Raise Your Weapon, you know, a lot of his other, you know, W tracks were really to appease a label and to appease what was hot at that moment. And it felt like it was counterintuitive. Like, he did his 7 Deadly Sins immediately following getting out of the Ultra label, because it was symphonic and it was composition and scoring, and much more so than anything he had done before. So I think there is, you know, the other side of that. You can have fame, you can have heavy inflow of cash, and still be an authentic artist and reinvent yourself in other ways. So it's a sticky piece, because that allows growth. But, you know, if you ever do have some, you know, questions, even offline, Kevin, let me know, especially with the fundraising element.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Big. I may totally take you up on that. Yeah. I feel, there's definitely a list of folks that are doing that. I think, like I mentioned earlier, Paul Van Dyke is one. And you know, David Guetta, you know, I don't know, like I did listen to that track. It was kind of, you know, pretty good. And some people either, yeah, it's totally sure possible to, you know, to make good living out of music and still have integrity. Yeah. I was going to say something else for good that you. So yeah, I don't know as much about Deadmau5 as I feel like I should, given the size of his name, but yeah, from what I see, he's been trying to do his own thing. And I think he's like, fuck all these other platforms, man, even Spotify, whatever. I'm just rolling my own thing, because the thing is, that's another big, huge topic too. The third party platform reliance, man. I mean, that's a topic for a whole, can be in itself. And that's actually one meetup I have is like on platform itself. One is to be social media, one to be on platforms where we can, which this might be kind of dicey, but I mean, there'll be opinions and observations too, where we can cover that in its whole one meetup of itself. But JP and I have had a little bit of discussion on that too. It's like, there's a lot of ways to look at things too. And as Phil said, ways to measure, I think it was Phil, right, to measure success. And I remember JP and I, one time we talked, and it's like, you can think, you spend all this time at work and you can be thinking, we're just hearing crickets from JP, because, you know, it's hard to tell sometimes, but then it takes time to succeed, to have your network grow and succeed. A lot of time. Yeah. I mean, like actually it was the guys from 11, if you know those guys, SNR, Swap Neo Kakar, and I kid his partner there, I feel bad, but Shaheen, they've been slogging the game for years. They've been featured on, like, in Holland, in Armin's fucking, you know, his all white decked out studio thing, man. There, like, but it's like the average any overnight success is like 10-year overnight is like a 10-year overnight success, you know. So
I've heard that before. It takes years to become an overnight success.
Exactly. Yeah. It's interesting too, Danielle, that to move the year now. So you've really only been, I mean, you said like when you were younger, like a kid or a teenager, you actually grew up as classical training, you actually in the metal. But is it really, you've only been making like electronic music proper for like maybe about a couple of years or so?
I've only been producing and making my own music, making my own tracks for 2 years. But before then, I was DJing, and I was very passionate about it, but I only started making my own music in September of 2018.
Okay. You really jumped to a quick takeoff, I'd say, in your reception to music. I think JP is right. You've got some really quality, serious, good production. And yeah. And what was it like when you first started off, like your first, like 6 months to a year or so, getting into the electronic music space?
So thank you. That means a lot. And I just, so what happened was I went to school actually for it. I went to Pure Mind and I took the introductory Ableton course. And then I did a lot of other, I took lessons through Zoom and things like that. So I just really immersed myself in it and really just dedicated a lot of time to it. And it just kind of like, trying to think of the best way to describe it actually. But yeah, because I love it so much, I just wanted to learn as much as possible and, become the best. And every day is an opportunity to grow as an artist.
Phil, I know that's what Phil was just saying, right? I looked at Phil's Twitter feed like it was yesterday, and he had, and he had a little snippet from his studio session. Exactly that, the topic of continual learning. It's true, lifelong student.
It's about consistency. It's about putting in the time every day, even if it's for like 30 minutes, 10 minutes, just do it every day. Yeah.
One of the things that I don't know about struggling with lately, but I've been looking at lately is the perfectionism can hold you back. And that really can be true. It's like, I think there's a trade-off between, you can say perfectionism, but it's like, I think you can keep really, really high self, quality standards and getting the shit out the door,
That's actually what stops a lot of producers who, they might be amazing, but, they get so stuck on perfectionism, on making one track sound like, best track in the genre, making the Beatport charts, and they spend months on it. But then you have the other producer who is just making, constantly making something new. And while it's not perfect, or it might not even be, super great, there's a little bit of improvement, but you build the speed, but you also build the quality. And then, 2 years later, the person with the quantity has the same quality, but they also have much more of an output. They have a lot more material.
Yeah, or 2 weeks of developing one kick drum sound, right, JP?
Yeah.
Well, Phil, dude, that Blade Runner, you know, kind of sound, that synth that you've got in most of your tracks. I mean, that was something that you worked on. I remember hearing the different iterations of that for at least a year.
It's out of the future, right, Phil?
I'm not a good. Let's just say Petrified. I had that. I've been working on that for 3 years, and it just came out last week. I'm not the best at that. I'll work on some stuff and then never ever release it, and then other stuff that I do decide to release it. Like it's so random with me sometimes, man. Like my backlog is huge. That's all I'll say.
So was Petrified like something that you'd had like in the treasure chest for like maybe a couple of years, and you kind of put aside your stuff, and you kind of over the last couple of months sort of like pull it out, kind of reworked it, revarnished it? Is that kind of what the story is behind?
So I had actually signed that when Tyler was A&Ring at Pineapple in 2017, I believe, or 2018. Okay. And then I was like, okay, I'll finish it up real quick. So it took me about 6 months for me to finish it up and get it where I wanted it. Then Tyler ended up leaving and starting Ghost. And then at that same time, I was like, okay, I'll put it over on Ghost. And then I waited about 8 months for a remix that never got finished. So then I was like, all right, I'll start something on my own end. And then it took me about a year just to get that second track done. And then the whole EP kind of finished up about in March of this year. Like right before all the craziness with Corona started was when I had finished it completely.
Okay. I've gotten a peep into that treasure chest that you referenced, if you will, Kevin, and he has a backlog of incomplete projects that he has just like he'll get frustrated with and walk away from. And I think what makes his creative process so unique is that there are elements, especially that I've heard from 8 years ago, that are like, whoa, wasn't that pitched down vocal from you made like 4 years ago or something like that? And he's like, yeah, I've just kind of been sitting waiting for the right moment to do it. So, what you were saying, Danielle, is you build this content base, you build this quality of sound. And then as soon as you figure out where you can pull from and however you manufacture a song, however you structure it, whatever your channels look like, what needs to be put in there, and you build your templates, you build your ideas of, okay, now I got my sounds that I can plug in here, which feeds into this overall sound that you build and have. And it takes a while to get there. And then I think once you hit that quantity, once you hit that quality, the quantity follows, because it's easier to produce, it's easier to get it out. It's an exponential kind of curve.
And vice versa. If you make a lot of quantity, then the quality increases also.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Repetition breeds, improved performance.
I think for a writer, like say doing a journal, or a musician, like doing like a once a day, or which is kind of brutal, as JP was saying, we discussed like how often I can relate to that, how often you push a piece, but say maybe weekly, whether you do one track a week, or Zafer, if you know that guy, Donovan Towns, we talked before, I think I did an interview with him about how like he was doing like an album once a month or even once a week, whatever. And there's that kind of discipline when you stick to it-iveness does kind of make push some really cool stuff out of you. Yeah, and on the production side too, JP, that reminded me something one of you guys said a minute ago, how JP's got one of the articles you did on electrofans.com on the blog about how like for producers, like I'm not sure if it's quite the same thing I'm trying to say, but like if you have like cool sound, like I remember the one, JP, where you have cool, like an arsenal of some cool, for the producer side, cool stuff that you've done, like kind of archive it, and you can pull it out if or I think it was the write-up you did on organizing your workflow. Mm-hmm. You have some like really cool snare drum, like you have this thing ready to go, a really cool pad, techno pad 1 or whatever, you have it right there, you can pull out, like, yeah. But doing the daily discipline workflow, forcing yourself to do it, kind of the force goes into the flow. Yeah, that does kind of and not all your pieces, whether it's writing or in journalism or blog posts on Electrofans or music, are going to be gems. There are going to be a lot of duds and nuggets and some turds. That's kind of how it goes. But I think by doing it, even though it can get like a slog, but that's kind of lends its pathway to success. Yeah.
Guys, I'm
Arthur?
really
I mean,
sorry. It's almost 2 a.m. here.
Oh.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
unfortunately, I have to go.
Yeah,
as
sure. I
well.
mean, yeah, no problem. It is kind of, I was sort of planning this to maybe about 4:35 anyway. So yeah, no problem. And thanks to Zoom, powers that be, for extending this, and to you guys for being here. I was going to say
Thanks for pulling together.
right before I did this, you can't have a show without guests. You guys rock, and I really appreciate, yeah, if anyone wants to sign up, I think I'm gonna stay on for maybe another 20 minutes if you guys want, or if anyone wants to head out, or anyone that wants to head out, no problem. But I want to say, Daniela, Arthur, Patrick, Phil, and JP, thanks 10 million you guys for being here, man. We're gonna be doing more of these too. So you guys are part of Electrofans virtual meetup #1, man, #1. So
Founders.
I really appreciate you
Pleasure
guys
to be a
being
part
here.
of this. Thanks.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
so
the
much.
invite. Yeah, thank you for
Yeah,
pulling this
thanks,
together.
Arthur, Daniela.
Always
Nice
nice
to
to
meet
see you,
y'all.
JP.
Yeah. Thanks for being here, guys, and see you on
Nice
one
to
of these
meet
next
everybody.
shows. Yeah, have a
Nice to
great
meet
day.
Take care, you
too,
guys.
Nice to
Daniela.
meet
Friday.
y'all.
All right.
Yeah, I
See
enjoyed
you.
this. Thanks, guys. Pleasure meeting you all. Take care.
Sure.
Yeah.
See you, Arthur. Have a good weekend, man.
Sleep
Have
well.
fun.
Ciao,
Stay
Arthur.
safe. Stay healthy. Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
See you,
Bye.
Danielle. Take care.
I'll
See you
be
next
soon.
time.
I'll be soon to
Yeah.
hop off, but I'm very
Yeah.
very privileged to be part of the kind of the pioneering, the breaking ground of this. I think it's a great idea what you're doing, and I appreciate you letting me be a fly on the wall, and kind of let me tune in here last minute. I look forward to kind of what you're on to the next ventures. There's as a fundraiser, or as anybody who kind of really knows in the industry, it all starts with conversations, and it all starts with kind of those first connecting points.